The motel sat just off Route 19, between two townships that had long since stopped mattering. I wasn't supposed to stay more than a night, just enough to rest, reset, and be back on the road by morning. Business took me through these dead miles often enough that I stopped paying attention to the signage. They all looked the same anyway. Dull stucco facades, dusty lobbies, the low hum of vending machines that never quite seemed stocked. The one I checked into was called Sunvale Lodge. Fake potted plants flanked the check-in desk, and a rack of faded brochures listed attractions that had either closed or never truly opened. The front desk clerk had the aura of someone who'd long given up on enthusiasm, middle-aged, eyes glued to a small television showing static more than programming. He didn't ask for much beyond my ID and credit card. "Room 107, he muttered. "Ice and vending in the breezeway." My room was at the far end of the lot, tucked between the shadow of a broken lamppost and a line of creaking shrubs that hadn't been trimmed in months. The sky was going that deep shade of blue that signals the end of the day's heat, but not its discomfort. It was early fall, technically, but the air still clung to me with sweat-thick humidity. I could smell the asphalt, sun-baked and oozing some chemical scent that coated the back of my throat. The room was as expected: stiff sheets, a comforter too thin to do anything useful, and a TV that offered more snow than channels. I dropped my duffel bag onto the bed, sat on the edge for a moment, and stared at the ceiling fan as it spun. A soft, uneven click echoed from its motor, barely perceptible unless you were listening for it. The kind of sound that could lull you if you let it, or drive you mad if you didn't. I hadn't eaten all day. The vending area was a narrow alcove between buildings, open on one side with a cement floor and a buzzing fluorescent fixture overhead. The light flickered intermittently, giving the place an oddly rhythmic pulse. There were two machines, one for drinks, the other for snacks. Both were off-brand and humming loud enough to make my teeth hurt. The buttons were greasy, scratched, the display panel dim. I fed in a couple of wrinkled bills and pressed for a bag of chips. There was the usual whir of mechanics, then a thump as something dropped into the tray. Only it wasn't a bag of chips, it was a wallet. I stared at it. Black leather, worn and scuffed, with the corners curled like old paper. My first instinct was confusion, then suspicion. I glanced around the breezeway, half expecting someone to step out laughing. Hidden camera show, maybe. Some kind of prank, but no one came. The air felt still. I picked up the wallet and opened it. Inside was a driver's license South Dakota issue. The face staring back at me was a woman in her 60s, named Marianne D. Lesner. Expired. A credit card with the corners cut off. $3 in small bills. A folded receipt from a gas station I didn't recognize. I stood there for a moment, the vending machine humming like a dull migraine behind me. Then I laughed, short and uncomfortable. Figured it was some bored teenager's idea of a joke. I shoved the wallet in my back pocket and tried again, this time punching the number for peanut butter crackers. A clunk. Another item landed. Not crackers. A Polaroid. It had that old-school tint, the colors slightly bled from age or poor exposure. A family, maybe early 90s. Man and woman on lawn chairs. A little girl between them, all grinning in the direction of the camera. But their eyes, they didn't sit right. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe it was the lighting. Maybe it was the way they were too focused, too aware of being watched. I flipped it over. No writing, just that thick white border, yellowed and curled. I walked back to the room more slowly than I had arrived. Once inside, I set the wallet and photo on the small desk and turned on the television, just for noise. I told myself it was nothing, just local kids with nothing better to do. But that didn't explain the wallet. Or the feeling that had crept into my spine like the cold tail of something brushing against bone. I sat there for a long time, the room getting darker around me. The only light now the flicker of the TV, which showed nothing but looping weather alerts and static-laced reruns. At some point, I realized I was holding the photo again. The girl in the center, I could swear her face had shifted. I blinked. No same smile. Same eyes. And yet, It felt different, like she was closer, like she knew. The night never really settled. The walls in room 107 seemed too thin to hold back the hum of the vending machine outside. It droned on like an anxious insect, a sound I now couldn't unhear. I left the photo and wallet on the desk and tried to sleep, but my body wouldn't cooperate. Every position felt wrong. My muscles braced for something unnamed. By 2:12, I was staring at the ceiling again, eyes grainy, heart too fast for rest. Something told me I needed to go back to the vending alcove. I don't know why, just that itchy instinct, the kind that starts behind your ribs and moves up your spine until you have to act. I pulled on jeans and slipped out the door barefoot. The night air had cooled, but not enough. Crickets chirped lazily, and a dog barked once, then not again. The lights in the vending breezeway were still flickering. The machine buzzed louder than before, as if the gears inside were laboring now, grinding against something. The drink machine still worked. I could see condensation on the bottles, but the snack machine was different. Dusty now, as if it had aged 10 years in a single night. The inside panel was fogged, the display flickering random numbers, 88.8, then 7.4, then nothing at all. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a few more bills. I don't know why I kept going. There was no logic left in it, just the pull of curiosity, sick and magnetic. I fed the money in and pressed B4. Pretzels, according to the faded label. There was a pause, then a sound, not the light thud of a snack drop, but a wet plop, heavy and organic. I froze. That sound didn't belong in plastic coils. I looked down. There, in the tray, sat a key ring, not a motel key, a heavy brass house key strung along with a smaller silver one and a plastic tag that read FLETCHER, Storage, 105A. The tag was cracked. The metal teeth on the keys were dulled, worn down like they'd been used thousands of times. I picked it up. It was warm. Behind me, a door creaked. I spun nothing there. Just the empty parking lot, stretching into tree-shadowed silence. But it didn't feel empty. The shadows felt thicker than before, like they were leaning inward, breathing. I went back to my room and locked the door, bolting it and dragging the desk chair in front of it for good measure. I didn't sleep again. In the morning, the clerk at the front desk didn't ask why I looked like hell. I held up the key ring. Fletcher Storage? That a place near here? He didn't look at it, just kept his eyes on the screen in front of him. No idea, he said. Try Google. He was lying. I left anyway. I told myself I'd drop it, that I'd toss the keys, the wallet, the photo, pretend it all never happened. But instead I drove 3 blocks, parked under a rusted Exxon sign, and typed the tag into my phone. Fletcher Storage, Unit 105A, was just 5 miles east. Old industrial park on the edge of the county line. I don't remember deciding to go. Only that I was already halfway there. The road took me past stretches of tall grass and broken fencing. Everything looked half forgotten. Signs were sun-bleached and dented. A dead bird lay in the center of the road, perfectly intact, as if it had simply dropped out of the sky. Fletcher Storage was a row of steel units, each painted a color that had once been blue. No guardrail, no keypad, just a chain-link gate pulled half open, and a cracked sign that read closed. No ENTRY. But Unit 105A was unlocked. The key fit perfectly. Inside was dry. The concrete floor was dusty but untouched. The air smelled like plastic and copper. A single folding chair sat in the center of the space, and on it, neatly stacked, were items. A red passport, Canadian, belonging to a woman named Brielle Tonin, expired 2004. A child's sneaker, size 1, frayed at the toe. A jar. Sealed. Inside, a set of teeth. Human. Adult. Brown-stained and resting in a gauze nest. And resting on top of it all, a photo. The same family as before. The same pose, only now the little girl was gone. The space between her parents was empty. I didn't scream. I don't think I could have. But I felt a pressure in my throat, like something was trying to climb out, wordless and raw. Behind me, the steel door groaned. I turned, heart kicking my ribs, and there, standing just beyond the threshold, was a boy. maybe 10. Pale, his skin almost translucent, eyes too wide for his face. He didn't say a word. He just pointed behind me. I spun again. The items were gone. Only the chair remained, and the hum of a vending machine echoed faintly from somewhere far too close. I didn't go back to the motel. I drove until I hit a gas station on the outskirts of the county. One of those places with buzzing neon signs and bathrooms that feel like they're losing a war to mildew. I parked beneath a flickering overhead lamp and just sat there, staring at my hands. They looked like someone else's. Pale, trembling. That strange metallic smell lingered in my nose like rusted coins and damp wires. I hadn't brought the items with me. They vanished, or maybe I left them behind. It was impossible to say. I only knew 2 things. The vending machine wasn't a machine, and it wasn't finished with me. By the time I made it back to Sunvale Lodge, the sun was sliding behind a smear of clouds, casting the sky in a sickly amber haze. I walked into the breezeway again, feeling like a sleepwalker returning to a familiar nightmare. It looked the same flickering light, humming glass, but the machine now bore a crack across its top panel, like a lightning bolt etched in grime. I stood in front of it, fists clenched, and fed in a $5 bill without even thinking. The coil turned, gears whining. This time it dispensed a single glove. Child-sized. Pale blue. Knitted. Damp to the touch. I held it like it was diseased. There was something sticky on the cuff, syrupy and dark, almost black. My stomach turned. A gust of wind whispered through the breezeway, and something else dropped into the tray. Another photo. This one wasn't of the family. It was me, standing at the vending machine. The same clothes, same angle, only it was taken from behind. From maybe 6 feet away. I hadn't brought my phone. No one else had passed by. I turned quickly, scanning every corner of the lot. Nothing. Just silence. And that low electric drone. The motel clerk wasn't at the desk. The little lobby was dim, the air stale like it hadn't been stirred in hours. I rang the bell. No one came. I leaned over the counter and called out. Hello? Nothing. But I did notice a monitor small, mounted behind the desk. Grainy black and white security feed. 4 camera angles. Parking lot. Lobby. Breezeway. And my room. Room 107. I watched for a moment, breath shallow. In the feed from the breezeway, I saw myself still standing in front of the vending machine holding the photo. But I wasn't moving, not blinking, frozen. I backed away from the desk. The screen kept playing. Still me, still not moving. I fled. Out into the dusk, heart in free fall. I should have gotten in the car and driven away, but I didn't. I walked back to my room. The lock stuck a little, then clicked open. The air inside was cold. The kind of cold that doesn't come from broken AC, but something deeper. Something old and waiting. On the bed, carefully laid out, were more items. A man's watch, cracked and missing the band. A journal with damp, curling pages, most of it illegible, scrawled in a mix of English and something else. Symbols, scratches, sketches of machinery, twisted into shapes that didn't make sense. And a note, typed. On motel letterhead. The machine remembers. Underneath, written in ink, you feed it your questions. It feeds you its dead. I backed into the bathroom and threw up. The water from the tap came out cloudy. Smelled like metal. I splashed my face anyway, desperate for clarity, for sensation, for anything that could tether me back to what I used to believe was real. That night, I stayed awake in the chair by the window. The vending machine just barely visible through the gap in the curtain. At 3:04, it lit up on its own. I saw the display flash random numbers, then letters, then words. It scrolled. Slow and deliberate. You are looking in the wrong direction. Look behind you. I didn't move at first. I couldn't. But slowly, muscles stiff, I turned my head. The desk? The photo. It had changed again. Now the image was inside the storage unit, and the girl was back, but her eyes had been scratched out by something small, something inside the photograph. And behind her, in the darkness of the unit, a shape, something rising from the shadow, something impossibly tall and narrow, like it had been folded wrong into the space of the frame, watching. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time I blinked, I saw the vending machine, saw the girl's eyeless face, saw that thing coiled like it was waiting to unfurl itself. Morning brought no comfort. The sunlight only made everything look more artificial, like I'd stumbled into a stage set, pretending to be reality. I packed my bag, tossed it into the car, and drove. I didn't have a plan, only a destination. I went back to Fletcher Storage. I needed to see if the unit still existed, if it had ever existed at all. When I got there, the front gate was chained shut, rusted metal strung tight and padlocked. No for sale sign, no active business anywhere nearby. I parked along the shoulder and climbed the fence, cutting my hand in the process. It didn't bleed right away, just left a tacky smear across the cold steel. 105A was there, but the door was different now. It looked melted. The edges were warped inward, like the metal had been burned and then cooled wrong. I put the key in again. It still turned, still worked. The door groaned open. Empty. Totally empty. No char. No photo. No child's shoe or sealed jar of teeth. Just a space too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your ears ache. I stepped inside and shut the door behind me. Something happened. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but the air changed. Grew heavy. Wet, like I was standing in a basement after flood season. I smelled mildew, salt, and something faintly electric, like a battery leaking acid nearby. And then I heard it, that hum, the same hum from the vending machine. It was under the floor. I dropped to my knees and pressed my ear against the cold concrete. There, soft but distinct, was the whirring of gears, the creak of metal, like something was turning in the dark beneath the unit, jigging. I backed out slowly, heart in my throat. I made it to the car without running, but just barely. I don't remember the drive back to the motel. It blurred into heat and motion and the relentless churn of my own thoughts. When I returned to Sunvale Lodge, the clerk was gone. Gone. Not on break. Not stepped out for a smoke. His chair was overturned, and the computer monitor blinked with static. Behind the counter, a trail of small, wet footprints led into the back office. I didn't follow them. Instead, I walked straight to the vending machine. Something about it looked newer, shinier, like it had been replaced in the night. I knelt in front of it, pressed my palm against the plexiglass. "Why me?" I whispered. The machine whirred softly. Then, impossibly, it responded, not through words, through sound. From the speaker, distorted and distant, came a voice. My own. "I'm at Fletcher now. The girl is gone. I don't know if I'm losing it." It was a recording. From my phone. One I never made. I stepped back, nausea hitting like a hammer. The machine clicked, and out dropped a folded page. I picked it up with shaking hands. It was a printout, black and white. A newspaper clipping. Local woman still missing after 5 days. Mary Ann Lessner, 62, was last seen leaving a diner along Route 19. Her wallet was later discovered in an abandoned vending machine. Authorities remain baffled. The photo attached to the article was the same woman from the wallet. My head spun. Another sheet dropped behind it. Another clipping. Child disappears from hotel grounds. Security footage from the Sunvale Lodge shows the girl entering the vending area around 3 a.m. She never came back out. Camera feed corrupted shortly after. And then another. Man missing in storage unit mystery. The photo. It was me, standing in front of Fletcher Storage. Same clothes as yesterday, but the article was dated next week. I backed away, the pages falling from my fingers. The machine started to hum again, and then something shifted in the glass, not a reflection. Something behind it, watching me. It moved, pressed close to the inside of the machine. A face, half-formed, stretching against the glass like a fetus against membrane. No features, just shape awareness made meat. I turned and ran, out of the breezeway, into the heat and noise of the parking lot. But I couldn't breathe right. My skin itched like it was trying to pull away from the bone. My vision blurred. When I made it to the car, the key was already in the ignition. I don't remember putting it there. I turned the engine, floored it out of the lot. Didn't look back. Couldn't, because if I did, I knew I'd see it in the rear view. That thing pressed against the vending glass, smiling, I drove for hours, maybe days. My sense of time dissolved somewhere along the interstate, unspooling mile after mile of cracked concrete and flickering exit signs. I didn't eat. I barely drank. I only drove, chased by the memory of something I couldn't define, but that felt like it had threaded itself through me. I thought distance would help, but I kept hearing the hum everywhere. In the air, vents of rest stops. In the buzz of overhead lights at gas stations. Once, even from the static between radio stations, just under the hiss, like something mechanical, breathing in rhythm, I ended up back in my apartment in the city. It didn't feel like mine anymore. Everything looked the same. Coffee mug still on the counter, unopened mail in the box, but the air felt borrowed. Like someone had been living there in my absence, wearing me like a coat. I showered 3 times the first day. Scrubbed my skin until it peeled. But the smell lingered, plastic and dust, burned sugar. I tried to go back to work, tried to tell myself it was over. But that night, I heard a sound in the hall, a clunk, something landing outside my door. I opened it, and there, sitting alone on the welcome mat, was a single vending machine snack unwrapped, a protein bar I'd tried to buy back at Sunvale. One that had never dispensed, but now it had, and it had followed me. I left the bar untouched, slammed the door, locked it, sat awake with the lights on. It was 3 days before I tried to contact anyone. I called the motel. The number was disconnected. I checked online. Sunvale Lodge no longer existed. No reviews, no history, no business license. Fletcher Storage? Gone too. It was like they'd been scrubbed. Not abandoned, but erased. And that's when I realized it wasn't about the place. It was about the machine. Wherever I went, it could find me. Because it wasn't bound by geography. It was tethered to questions, to hunger. And I had fed it. One night I dreamt of it, standing in the corner of my living room, towering, pulsing with a quiet light, as if something behind the glass was waiting to be seen. In the dream, I pressed a button, and when the tray opened, I found a mirror inside. But in the reflection, not me, just absence. A silhouette burned into the background of a place I couldn't remember standing in. I woke with a nosebleed and a bruise along my ribs I couldn't explain. I've moved 3 times since then, always in cities, always in buildings with no vending areas. I don't carry cash anymore. I avoid motels. I don't touch unattended objects, but sometimes I still hear the hum, soft, just beyond the wall. Sometimes I find items that weren't mine. A key I never bought, a torn photo on my nightstand, a crumpled receipt in my jacket pocket from a gas station I've never been to. I tried burning them once. They came back the next morning, pristine, pressed neatly against the inside of my window, as if left from the other side. I've come to understand something. This isn't a haunting. This is inventory, a life sorted and cataloged. Not for me, for something else. Something that remembers every request, every offering, and it is still dispensing. One item at a time. You may leave the motel, but the machine knows your preferences, and it's still filling your order.